Hey, Julia Barzik here from Wise Investigator. I want to talk to you today about the career transition that you need to make to have sustained long-term success with the research funding process. Now, this video is going to be a bit deeper and kind of abstract compared to some of the other videos that I've made where I'm highlighting actionable items, things that you can do to have success with the research funding process. But I want to talk today about the why you want to do those things that I suggest that you do. So I will have a follow-on video where I outline some specific steps to support you getting to where I want you to be. But let's take the time today to go a little bit deeper into the explanation of, again, the why you want to make this transition that I'm going to talk about. And really, it's a transformation. So there is an overarching theme of what is tripping up PIs when they're trying to launch out, to either have success in that early career stage or launch into that mid-career stage successfully. And even if they feel like they have launched into mid-career, they can feel stuck there, like things aren't just working exactly the way they thought they were going to. So this is really what trips them up, and that's what I'm going to be talking about here. And I did mention this and get into it a little bit at the end of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective PIs video that I made, which outlined each of Stephen Covey's from his favorite or famous book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, each one of those 7 habits in the context of university researchers and how each of those habits plays out in the research funding process. So at the end of that video, I talked about some information that Stephen Covey presents at the end of his book, which talks about the different stages of maturity of a person going through life, where we started out with dependence. So that's when you're learning as an early, in your early years in school, as a young child or even a young person in certain situations where a parent or a teacher or a supervisor is telling you what to do, because at this stage, we don't know what to do. We need to be told and follow instructions and learn. We then move into independence, and this is where you're operating independently. So this is where all of you are, right? If you're an assistant professor at an institution of higher education, or you're even a postdoc or moving into that stage where you're performing research independently that you're leading, you're absolutely at an independent stage. This is great to arrive at this stage. The problem is that people get stuck in independence when what we want to do is move to the next stage of maturity, which is interdependence. Now, this is what I'm going to be talking about today. What is this interdependent stage? How do we identify the signs that we're stuck in independence and move out into interdependence? Why is it important, and what kind of benefits are going to come from this? Now, the issue here is that generally no one actually tells you that you will need to move out of independence. Again, people are at independence and they're thinking, oh, great, I've arrived. This is where I want to be. And it is where you want to be for some period of time. But I'm here to make the case that moving into interdependence is going to benefit you. And when you're in a state of interdependence, this indicates that there are people who are needing the work that you do, right? I'm going to talk about this in the research context. You are performing research, and there's, say you're party A, right? You're A, you're doing this research. There's another party, we'll call them B, and they need the results of that research for them to do their work. And you need somebody else's work for you to do your own work. That could be B. You need the results from B or the assistance from B to do what you need to do. Or maybe you need it from C. It's not always a one-to-one here. This is a web of, again, interconnectedness. So when you are part of this interconnected system, you will move into more ease in your career because you're not going everything alone. And you're also going to benefit from the phenomenon of a rising tide lifting all ships, because would be one of those ships. And you can benefit from overall momentum towards a goal that is already there that you can kind of latch onto, or momentum that you can create and other people can kind of latch onto that. And again, that's the interconnectedness. You don't have to go it alone. So I am going to tie in to examples of some of these things in another video, but let's move forward with the concept, even though, again, it's a bit abstract. So really, the issue here is that the PIs are focused solely on their ideas. Are my ideas good enough? And again, that's a very independent mindset to have. And I'm telling you right now that your ideas are fine. If you are an assistant professor, you've been hired to a university or an institution of higher education in the United States, you are qualified. Your ideas are fine. It's still important to learn how to communicate your ideas well. That's a whole nother topic. And that's something that I work with clients on. So I'm not discounting the importance of communication and being able to communicate what you want to do well. But that's not the topic of this video. You are qualified. Your ideas are good enough. But it's important that you master not only the communication of your research ideas, but this way of being interconnected and building the relationships and benefiting from the work of others and letting others benefit from your work as well. So this also, just for a moment to talk about the work that I do with clients, this is why when I work with clients, I am not offering a proposal preparation service. Because this actually, I think for me to do this, I would feel like I would be doing a disservice to clients if I only did that. And that's not to say that proposal preparation services and consultants that help with that are doing a disservice. There is a role for getting that kind of help, and you can get a lot of good help that way. But if I were to just help a client with a proposal, coming in at the end and fixing things up, really pushing them to get the information I need out of them, getting that into the proposal in a clear, concise way, and sending that off, right, for a decision that could get funded, it could not be funded. If it's funded, oh, that'd be great. Everyone would be happy at that moment. But what would the client or the PI do next time? Would they be prepared to work through the next opportunity themselves? Or would they have to come back to me or another consultant to get help once again? So I want them to be successful in the entire process and to develop the ability to navigate all of this on their own. So that's why I don't work just on proposal preparation, and people ask me to do that work regularly, and I say no to it because that's not the work that I'm called to do. I'm here to help people make that transformation and support them in that because it's not easy. So that's another point I want to make. This is not easy. Now, let's talk for a moment about PIs who are successful with research funding and what you can learn from them. So there's always things to learn from other people, but I do want to caution you here that the PIs that really have ease with the research process or research funding process, one, they are rare. So I would estimate, from my experience as a program manager, 10 years of working with PIs like this, I would say about 10 or maybe at most 15% of the PIs out there just naturally, for some reason, I don't know exactly why, maybe it's their personality, who they trained under, they knew how to do all this just innately. But again, that's 10 or 15%. So if you're feeling like this is something that's new to you, that is a bit overwhelming, again, abstract, that's normal. You're in the great majority of people here. Why you want to be careful about getting advice on how you can improve what you're doing only from those people. Those people are worth speaking with and asking them about their process. But I caution you because these people can be what's known as unconscious competence. So they have competence. They're doing the right things that they need to be doing to be successful, but they don't even realize exactly what they're doing. So they may think that they're having success because their ideas are just that much better than everybody else's, or they worked so hard on a proposal. And those things could be true, but they may not even be aware of the other things that they're doing to have to get the result that they're getting. And so that's why at events where successful PIs are brought in, like say in a panel to talk about their experience with a proposal process, that has value. I think the greatest value that brings is the encouragement to see somebody maybe from your own institution, your own discipline, who's up there saying, yeah, I got this award and this is how it worked. And I'm having a great working relationship with this organization now. I think that brings great encouragement. So I think there is value there. But to only go to those people to find out what they did, that is limited. That's limited information. So again, to get to the state of interdependence, I know that it's not easy. And this is why I walk people through this process. So what I need to move into now is something that I've talked before in other videos, and I've referred to this as a good student problem. I'll call it a problem. So when you're at this early career stage, or you're beyond and you're frustrated because you're stuck because you know something is not quite right, it can feel psychologically safer to move forward with opportunities that are more of an application. So think about a college application, a grad school application, a fellowship application, and even something like submitting for the NSF Career Award. I don't mean to disparage in any way the NSF Career Program. That's an excellent program. It's a great opportunity. I help people prepare for that. I have a series of videos on helping you prepare for the NSF Career Opportunity. So it's a great program. But it is more of an application process than the other type of opportunity, which we get to at a later career stage, which again is exemplified by this interconnectedness. You likely feel comfortable submitting something like a career award for a proposal for the career award because you are good at filling out applications. If you were not good at completing applications, putting forth quality applications, you would not have gotten through all of the career stages that you did to arrive where you are right now. But I really think that with the career award, it would be more helpful to think about that as signifying the end of this good student phase of your career and your life, rather than a launching pad. Because I believe that the messaging on the career award is that it's something that really is going to launch you into your independent research career. You know, you don't need the career award to launch, but it is a big support for a launch into this independent research career. I think that it would be more helpful to think of it as an end cap. You know, this is ending that stage of your career. So I don't know if that's helpful, but I think it's useful to think about it that way, because the problem that some mid-career PIs get into is they've had success with, in many ways, all the way up through the career award. And then after that, they find themselves in a much more competitive environment, not knowing what strategy to use there. So this is also a place to bring up something else that I've spoken about in other videos. And this is the hidden curriculum. So everything that I'm talking about here is related to the hidden curriculum. And I would like to you to think about something else that has the word hidden in it, and that is something that's known as the hidden job market. If you have ever applied for jobs in the private sector or, say, outside of academia, you may have looked at job boards. Maybe you haven't done that yourself, but you've looked for a spouse or a family member. And you might go to job boards like Indeed or LinkedIn Jobs. There's many out there. And you may notice that there are no job postings for positions like CEO or other C-suite roles, or even there are not many postings at all for positions that would be one or two levels below those C-suite roles. But we do know that there are people in those jobs. So how do they get into those jobs? They get into them through the hidden job market. The hidden job market is something that relies on a network, referrals, and more informal forms of communication within that network, which is how those jobs are filled. They're not filled by somebody submitting an application. Now, as a technicality, someone may have to complete an application after they've received a verbal offer before they can begin employment with a company, but that's a technicality. Those jobs are not filled by anyone seeing a posting on LinkedIn Jobs and submitting an application. Now, there are differences. It's not a perfect analogy between the private sector job market, jobs in the private sector and the hidden job market, and federal funding of research. Because, of course, federal funding of research, that's funded with the taxpayer money. This should be a fair and impartial process. And it is much more transparent than what goes on in the hidden job market. And it should be. And it's another video to get into a discussion. You'd really have to piece out in what cases is it fair for a relationship to be part of a funding decision? In what cases is it not okay? It's not fair. It's likely even illegal. Again, we'd have to get pretty granular and go through that all beyond the scope of what I'm talking about here. But I wanted to make that point because I think it's very helpful to start thinking about the opportunities that are out there that you don't even know about because you're not talking to other humans beyond your existing network. Something like a funding opportunity announcement is never going to be able to could never be long enough, and we wouldn't want them to be any longer than they are, to state every single potential research idea that could be supported through that opportunity. The person who's writing that announcement, even the technical program officer, that person can't even say every single idea that could be supported because they don't know all of those ideas because the ideas are coming from you. So they're going to be general. And the only way to get more information is by having the conversations. And this is where I want to draw, again, the analogy to the hidden job market. So you might think, well, I'm not a CEO level type person. I'm just starting out. And I beg to differ with that because you are at a high level. If you are in a faculty position at an institution in the United States, whether that's an R1 or whether it's a small school where there's not a lot of research activity, it doesn't matter. If you're in one of those positions, you are at a high level. By a high level, I mean like the Olympics. You are at the top of your field. You're not in a JV high school team or a varsity team or even like college athletics. You are at the Olympics. So you are at a high level. So really start thinking about yourself that way because that's where you are. Now, again, I know that it's hard to know how to put what I'm saying right now into practice. When I work with clients, I coach them through all of the kinds of things that come up when they're making this transition and they're undergoing this transformation. And this can be things like just getting pessimistic about an outreach effort, right? To a funder, right? You're sending an email, maybe you got a response, and then there's a period where you don't get a response, and you have to wait a long time. And even something like that can really get your head spinning. And I'm able to walk that person through that process to give them the reassurance and, reassurance that that the process will proceed, right? Not necessarily reassurance that's going to result in money, but walking people through this process is an important part of what I do because I know that it is very hard to work with just this kind of information, although I feel that the information is important, so I'm putting it out there. And it would be helpful for you to just kind of sit on this, let it sink in, and look for opportunities to move into this interconnected phase. Part of the reason why this is hard is because we all, myself included, everybody, we are experiencing information overload. And for example, I'm making these videos. I think they're pretty good with the quality and everything, and I've got a good microphone, and I think you can see me clearly, but they definitely could be better. There's things I notice in my videos that I would like to have improved. I can go onto YouTube, and I have gone on YouTube and watched videos and looked at other material on how to do better with my videography. I could get information on every aspect of what I'm doing, from a new camera, new lighting, etc. But putting that all together myself is hard. What would be much easier, much more productive, would be to have somebody come in, say into my home office, if I could find someone in my local community, and actually help move the lights and look at new products with me that I may want to upgrade to. And that would be much less frustrating, and it would be a much more efficient use of time than someone like me who does not come from an audiovisual engineering background to try to put all of that together. So give yourself some grace there in understanding that it is hard to put these pieces together, even when you have the good information and even when the information is out there. So don't be hard on yourself is the first thing. And I encourage you to start thinking about how you can become interconnected with others in the work that you're doing beyond the network that you have right now. Because think about how rewarding it is when you work closely with somebody. That may be a really great postdoc that you're working with right now, or a grad student, and it may be your advisor if you had a good relationship with that, your former advisor. And you can get a lot done together. And not only can you get a lot done together, but it's fun, it's really rewarding, and it's exciting, and it keeps you going because you're pushing each other, again, the bigger than the sum of the parts. And it's a really gratifying part of what we all do is to work together, and we're interconnected with that group of people that you work with. Being interconnected more broadly, you want to think about expanding the number of people that you're working with like this, and out of your immediate lab group, out of even just the academic environment, and realize that some of these people you will have technical relationships with, and others you will have more of an administrative relationship, which is another topic outside the scope of this year. But all of these relationships are not necessarily going to be around the technical work that you're doing, although some of them will be. So by expanding this network, you are going to be able to become part of an ecosystem that is where there's lots of exchanges going on. Nutrients are exchanging, and water is exchanging, and it's flowing, right? There's that flow. And so funding and opportunities will flow to you, and they'll flow through you, and they'll flow out from you to others. So once again, I know this is a bit of a deeper, kind of broader topic, and I'm not going to leave you hanging with no practical steps, so I will get to those in another video.